to the RunRX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome back to the RunRX podcast. If you've been listening to us, you know we added in what I call my Tough Love Tuesdays, where I come in and kind of go deep dive into our thoughts and our mindset. And Valerie, this week I actually grabbed Dr. Romanov's book, The Running Revolution. And I did explain that that's just one book. His original book is The Pose Method. Please find it on Amazon. It's an excellent book. But the reason why I did The Running Revolution was that was the first book I found after, I don't even know if I'd met you yet. I think I'd actually got that first and then met you or something. It was really right about the time I met you. And I got it on Audible because I hate to read. I love to read, but it takes too much time.
Right.
So I did the whole Audible, and I remember very distinctly driving to work, listening to this whole, and it was all about my mindset and how I felt and the words I used, and it was very woo. And I'm obviously very woo. I'm very mindset oriented. I'm very much about the words. So I thought it was pretty cool. Well, I haven't. 3 years we've been working together. I really hadn't pulled it out. So I pulled it out for the podcast, and I read, it was literally page 12, right? And it was on perception, and I read it, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was very, I'm going to use the word obtuse, and I'm not saying it as a dig at all. It was just very much about that your center of mass moves through space, and I'm saying it wrong, but you have a perception, and once you get that perception, you become aware, and once you become aware, you actually can correct your technique. So talk about that to me. Can you I tried to dumb it down a little bit. Can you kind of dumb it down for those of us that are like, I just want to go out and run?
Right. Yeah, this is funny. The first time I took a clinic with Dr. Romanov, they used to be 3 days. And we would do an evening, like a Friday evening, and do 3 hours on paradigm shift.
Wow.
And
yeah, I think that's like the first chapter is all on the paradigm shift. Okay.
And the first time that I experienced this, I was like, they were just here to run, yeah. Really. And this is, again, you got to remember, this 18 years ago. So the people, they were kind of the same way. They were like, this is weird Russian man. He's talking all these. And by the way, he's brilliant. And he just talks a lot about Socrates and the old philosophers. And he goes, so the reality is that what he's really breaking down is really what we all already know, is the really simple mindset of action desires, right? It's the action set, right? You have the desire, you have the thought. First I have the thought, I want to run.
Right.
Then, and we like to liken it to like, maybe you're thirsty, right? I'm sitting here and I'm thirsty. So what's going to be my next plan of action? Am I thirsty enough to get up and go get myself a drink?
Yeah.
Or am I just going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm thirsty, but I'm not going to do anything about it?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and these are all things we do all day long and not think about it. Or maybe even someone walks by and you go, oh, hey, honey, since you're up, I'll take a glass of water.
That's a good
right?
one.
And then that was an efficient plan of action I just had. So it's the same in running, where with running, I want to run. It has to be obviously your first thought. And then what's my next step? Am I just going to go running? Am I going to go, and for most of us, that next step has been like go buy a pair of shoes.
Right.
Or go sign up for a race. Or maybe even just get up out the door, right? You know, so all of us have had these thoughts of how we're going to start running. We know we want to, right? We've already gotten to where I want to. Then we go out and we start running. Well, the reality is all of us are all going out with really no plan of action of how.
Okay.
It's like we treat running as a what?
Yeah.
I love running.
Yeah.
I love running, or running brings me joy, or I go running with my friends, or I bought these running shoes, yet none of us talk about what is running.
Right.
Well, what does that mean to go running?
So that's the paradigm shift he's talking about.
Yeah, the paradigm shift is
get
first,
out of that.
what is running?
Yeah.
We don't talk about what running is. There's no standard of running.
Right.
Like if you and I were going to go swimming, well, I've never been swimming. You would say things to me like, well, we're going to get in a pool of water, and I'm going to teach you, and you would probably say to me my first day of swimming, I'm going to teach you how to do, we used to call it the grandma stroke, the breaststroke.
Right.
And maybe you would show me how to take
Well,
my
actually,
hands.
what's so funny is I used to teach swimming. So the first thing I would do is teach you how to float.
Okay, perfect.
Right?
Exactly. Right.
Because people don't realize that, like, seriously, the whole fear of, teach how to float. Then you,
Right.
like you said, you learn.
And then let's say I was in your class and I was like, I'm here to swim. Why are you making me float?
Right, exactly.
And then you would explain to me the reasons. You understand? So so people that take a swim lesson, I guarantee you almost all of them get a floating lesson.
Right, and that's so, I'm having a huge, like, mind pew right here, because we've talked about this before. Triathletes understand the idea of learning how to run because they learn how to swim, right? They learn how to swim in fresh open. They also take the idea to learn how to bike. You guys, when you started biking as a kid, I had this great example of somebody was talking about this in terms of coaching in general, that when you learn how to bike as a kid and you're on your training wheels, right? And then your mom or you want to take your kid and you take them off the training wheels, you kind of hold the bike a little bit until they learn to get balance. But they have to learn the perception of balance, that they're not going to die, that they're not going to fall, that they can hold it. They have to build the confidence. And we don't do that with running. Absolutely. We don't. We just think we can throw on the pair of Keds that we had that have been sitting in our closet. My husband does this, so I can say this. He has shoes that are literally like 10 years old that moved from Chicago to Arizona to Texas. So guys, if you've ever seen rubber go from, minus 25 to 110 no humidity to 110 humidity, it gets pretty awful, right? That's how he started running. Now, he started by walking, but he's a fast walker and he hates to run, but he walks like an 11-minute mile. So, and that'll be next week's episode. But so it was funny that he just threw on shoes and just went out, and he never thought to ask me, like, how should I run? What is running?
Well, no one thinks it. And also there's a stigma because not only do we not learn how to run, we're supposed to know. So it's really on you.
Right.
So when you're not good at it, there's something wrong with you. What do you mean you don't know how to run? Everyone knows how to run. And you're punished with it at school.
Yep.
Run a lap.
Yep.
Not how to run a lap. Just go do it. Then we all
Stop talking, go run a lap. Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah.
Or don't run. Stop running in the hallway. Stop running around the pool.
Yeah, stop running around the pool.
So, I mean, running turns into either it's a form of punishment or it's something you just do. And so then it's not until, and by the way, most kids, right? So this is another big argument. As a kid, it's natural. Up to a point. I mean, if you're in any kind of I work with kids as well. Yes, kids that toddle and they're like 2 and 3 and 4, very natural movement. By age 5, they're already mimicking.
Yeah.
It's not natural anymore. They're trying to move. You switch your movement from natural movement once you start to be aware of your surroundings. It's called perception. And that's what we're trying to help people with is first of all, what is even running? I didn't even know. And I didn't. When I started running, and I'm a kines major, right? So learning all the bones and the physiology and everything. And you learn everything in exercise phys about cells and how the body works and all this. When you go to learn a movement, you're supposed to know about running. We certainly didn't have any you see what I mean?
Right.
But you can bet that, like you're saying, for swimming, you take a lesson and no one thinks twice.
Right. And you guys can go ahead and comment on the in our Facebook stuff or on our pages. I would never expect a triathlete to just go in and swim in the Gulf of Mexico. They would go, right? Because that's where a lot of the Ironmans are.
Sink.
They would go and get a lesson. They would learn how to do it properly, how to swim in open water versus they would learn. Same with biking. They would learn how to be more efficient in their biking. So what is then? So when Romanov is talking about perception and he's talking about technique, what is that? What is running?
So
in your terms.
In our terms. So running is free falling. So running is free falling, and there's a gait cycle, of course, that we do: pose, fall, pull. You can only fall from the pose, holding pose. So when you say running is free falling, that's when you understand. That's when you can talk about natural movement, because we live in gravity.
Yeah.
And it's not talked about enough. So the struggle is when you're young, you use gravity in your movement, and it is natural because your center of mass is much closer to the ground. So again, this is great. Center of mass. When I started learning pose, I was an aerobics teacher in the 90s, teaching everything, step, kickbox, you name it, I taught it. So when I started teaching running, we were out literally just going out like crazy people. Well, 60-minute workout class, so we were running for 60 minutes because isn't that what you're supposed to do, with no understanding of how. So we started getting injured, if you will. But with everything else I taught, I had to be certified. So I had to have a certification to teach step aerobics. I mean, I laugh about this stuff now because really, because somebody else could say to you, how hard is it to step up and down off a bench? Well, actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to get people safe and not hurt themselves, there should be some kind of standard so that if you go to a step class anywhere you go, you know the teachers had some kind of training.
Well,
to
I would challenge you to say, have you ever fallen down a stair or broken your ankle on a curb?
Well, no, I think my point is the culture. My point is
that's what I mean.
I could not get a job in my field.
Right.
I would not be able to work in a gym if I did not have the certification in what I was going to teach. Whether it was step aerobics, CrossFit, I don't know, water aerobics, I have them all. I have all the certs. No one, when I started running, said, oh, do you know how to teach running?
Right.
Do you have a running certification? No one.
Yeah.
Because
and
we
they
all
still
know
don't.
how to run.
I mean,
Right, they still don't. And also most people that, they go run with people all the time. And, well, she said this or he said this or the guy at the running shoe store. So all of a sudden you're reading articles, you're listening to all kinds of different coaches. Well, my coach said this. Well, there's no standard.
Yeah.
So then it's very hard to create a movement around a non-standard movement, if that makes sense.
So first you need the perception or the awareness that there is a standard.
Yes. First you need yes, exactly. First I need to know there is
a standard.
A standard of running.
And you have to, and this is where it's kind of like, I like to liken it to a religion, right? That you either agree there's a standard of movement for running, or if you choose to say there isn't, then don't follow us. You probably aren't even listening to this podcast right now, right?
Right. I mean, I don't know. Yes. I mean,
because there are going to be people that say, no, there's not. I can just go out and run.
Correct. In that sense.
And that's okay.
Yes. But then it's so hard. I will say this, guys. Challenge yourself to think about how simple it sounds what we're saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's and Caroline and I, you can hear us. We're not scientists. So like when Romanov said to me, why, Valerie, are you reaching for the ground and putting your foot down and hitting your body with 3 times your body weight over and over? I didn't have an answer for him.
Right.
Because does that sound like fun to you? He's like, why are you running by sticking your foot out in front of you and hitting the brake? Why are you doing all these things that are so negative to your body? Right. And you're actually working against yourself. You're working against gravity. And only because you don't understand how to do it correctly.
Right.
But you adapt it to this whole running system that's just hurting people.
Right. And so people think that they have to stride, right? We've talked about this, they have to reach, they have to put their foot way out in front of them and move their arms. And so first you have to have this perception of that there is a right way to run. Then you have to become aware of your body in space and how it moves with gravity.
Correct.
Right? Then we also have to become aware, and this is, I think it's I see both. Some people are really afraid to fall, right? They just do not want to fall. It's that whole, I'm gonna hurt myself. I do coaching within our membership, guys. You can come in and coach with me on your mindset, and I'm not kidding you. Every single one says, I'm afraid I'm gonna hurt my shins if I try to fall. And I say, do you understand that fear is what's giving you the shin splints?
Right.
Because of the fear, you put your foot out and you won't fall. And if you just fell, you would actually learn the perception and start pulling and doing it the right way. But because you're so afraid, you're holding yourself back and you're pushing it out there. But then the second thing is that idea that pulling is natural. It's the elasticity of the hamstring. And this was what I was saying in the Tough Love Tuesday, is all you have to do is release your foot. You say it better, but release your foot from the ground, right? I just have to bring it. Once I feel it, I perceive the ground, I need to spring back up, correct? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so this is the challenge, right? So in walking for most people and in running for most people, right? We've been moving by what's called, we'll make it simple, right? By reaching for the ground. It's like you take your front foot, and you don't even know you've been doing this, just so you know. And once you can feel your foot's on the ground, then you let go of your back foot. This is how most people run. And we're also taught to push off the back and reach with the front.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful feeling. Like you push off the back and you're like, woo, and then you like extend forward. This is the thought. Unfortunately, you have to remember pushing only works for jumping. So if I'm trying to jump way up high to make a basket, or jump high and make a box jump or something, I'm jumping. That makes sense. We're not jumping when we run. We're falling forward. And we've never thought about it that way, right? And so this is the challenge. So by the way, rebounding. I had never in my life rebounded or tried to, right? As a runner, as a fitness instructor, I never heard that term until I thought of basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Rebound. So the idea though is that this is really cool. You have what's called a natural blueprint for running. And when your foot makes contact with the ground and your body weight comes over the foot and gravity is redirecting you forward, the combination of gravity, ground reaction force, and muscle elasticity work together to start the pull. You do nothing.
Yeah.
And then as your body is still falling forward, your foot naturally pulls. And it's that spring up. It's a natural occurrence, and that's what's so crazy. You finish the pull using 10% of the hamstring, absolutely. Okay. And this is where people get stuck. It feels so simple, like when you finally learn it. When you're running, your feet are like up, 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 up. I'm serious. The struggle in running is holding your upper body.
Yeah.
It's holding your ears, shoulders, hips,
holding that
line.
Big, we call
that
it that, big head above your shoulders, and not letting it move forward and propel you forward.
It's the holding which by the way, everyone in running agrees. Yeah. Every physical therapist, physio, chiro, you name it, everybody will agree that you should all hold your ears, shoulders, hips in line. That's just correct posture in general life. So what we're teaching you is the running posture, the running pose. And the fun part is once you realize first there's that ability to do that, that's where I think the fear of the fall kind of goes back to. And when we teach you how to balance on your own body weight, for example. Yeah. Well, I've never felt that before. I've never thought about it in this way, right? So what starts to happen is instead of looking for the ground, like Caroline said, if I'm falling and I'm only pulling up, gravity brings that lifted foot down. I respond by pulling. You start to get a rhythm of this up, up, up. All of a sudden, you can't make it happen. It's a reaction. You start to feel like, oh my gosh, my legs are just popping up from the ground. And it's not jumping, I promise you, because you're 2% of your body weight. Imagine how light your foot will feel.
Yeah, you know? I love when you talk about change of support.
Yes.
And we talk about the drills that we do in the membership, but it really is just a change of support. And I like what I usually will do with our members that come in, and we talk about this falling, and we talk about most of them actually have little kids, so I'll tell them to play a game with their little kid to see if they can pull their foot up and then pull the other one up before the one foot lands, like make it a game. And they kind of laugh at it, but it's kind of like pony, or it's like hot potato or lava or whatever it is. But it's just this idea of can I lift my foot in it? Can I have both feet up at the same time?
Right.
Without jumping, and I'm using fake air quotes.
Right.
So I don't want to. It's a 6-hour book, guys, and I will be reading more of it because, especially the first third of it, because it was very powerful to me when I heard it, and I highly recommend you get the Audible and listen to it, and just listen to it while you're cleaning the house or something. When he talks about the perception, and he talks about even I think he even brings up a pregnant woman, the perception of having a pregnant woman having another person in their body, if I remember correctly. Just the perception of how your hormones change, how we have this perception of our body, and then we go out and run and we totally zone out, right? We put on our earphones, we talk with our friends, we don't look at how our body is moving, and so that's really what this podcast is about, guys. And that's why we do this.
And that's a good way to say it too, because how can you feel and sense what's happening if you are literally not listening to you?
Right.
And this is really cool, by the way, and this is another really important thing. So to develop a feel or perception of a movement, you have to be able first to be aware of it, right? We just said that. I have to know about this movement first, and then I have to want to do it. And so what's fun for us is we do a lot of what's called drills. And if you came to a clinic or you do the online, we teach you how to feel.
Right.
How does it feel to feel running? So that's the whole point of the drills, is to help you feel. Well, in the beginning, guess how you feel? You feel really weird.
You feel awkward.
You feel awkward.
Yeah.
You feel uncomfortable. You're like, I don't know how this feels. This is why we do this all together, by the way, and I have you check in. But the reality is, maybe you've been running with friends and talking the whole time. Maybe you've been trying to just keep up with the person ahead of you, or you've had your earphones on, you've been listening to your favorite playlist. Well, all of those things have disconnected you from your connection with what is running. And so when we take you back to connecting with you, the mind is truly free, by the way, and relaxed when it can only has to focus on one thing. Like, we think we can multitask, and we make ourselves do it.
That was I think that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
But listen, the true blueprint that's in your body already, that's in your hamstring knows how to contract. It's not like you're teaching your hamstring. Your calves know how to contract. Your muscles all know what to do. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for you to simply tune back in and connect with yourself. And I mean, I'm not the woo-woo at all. I can tell you, I used to make mixtapes for every single mile I was going to run. You know, I had it so organized, and I have not listened to music or anything like that. I still like to talk to my friends. We're not telling you to quit your running group, but take time to develop that perception. You'll want to go running more because you'll want to go feel it. And then don't think it's strange to be like, hey guys, when I run with you, I'm really just enjoying my run.
Yeah.
So if I'm not talking, I'm not being rude. It's just that I would like to breathe because my heart rate is up, not because I'm pulling myself back to talk. And then let's get a coffee after.
That's a great segue. We're going to talk about next week about basically what does it mean to be a double-digit runner. So join us next week.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.